What you saw on television, these white supremacists, Nazi sympathizers, carrying Nazi fags.
Not too long ago, I was seeing headlines like these about Hillary Clinton possibly running again in 2024. Is it because she's liked or well respected? No, it's because Biden's terrible and the Democrats are desperate. I mean, seriously, how desperate would you have to be for Hillary to be your best option right now? Oh yeah, they're that desperate. Hillary Clinton is like the STD that won't go away no matter how many antibiotics you put on it. It will still itch years later. Everything was looking good for Hillary, and then he happened. Now we've gone from Clinton possibly being the next president to Clinton possibly going to jail. Now, if you remember, the media wasn't always so overzealous about stopping misinformation. They would print 1 minute an article like this about Trump getting peed on by Russian prostitutes, and then, not too long after that, print a story about how Trump was a germaphobe and wouldn't shake people's hands and, how he was out of touch with everyone. The people that hated Trump, all they needed was a story. It didn't matter if it was true or not. It didn't matter if those stories contradicted each other or not. They needed to have their hatred validated, and that's what the media did oh so well while he was in office. Now, Democrats didn't like Trump, and, they had points on some of it about the way he talked, and he was definitely full of himself. You can't deny any of that. But as far as his policies go, they were pretty spotless. That's why when the Democrats ran, everyone that was trying to be the next president was talking about free school or health care. Sure, these are important issues, but not as important as others. There was no mention from them about blacks or Latinos or Asians and their jobless numbers. There was no mention of inflation or foreign policy. They didn't mention the stock market, crime, or foreign threats, for the most part. They just talked about free stuff. And the reason why is because they knew they couldn't touch Trump on those issues. He was killing it. Now, stupid stories aside about peeing Russian prostitutes and not shaking hands, there was one story that the media ran with by far more than any other. And that was the story of Russia interference in our election. See, I'm old enough to remember when the media went on for 3 years about Russia collusion with no evidence whatsoever. Misinformation? No, we'll just run the story and then later on, instead of issuing a redaction or saying we were wrong, we'll just ignore it. It will go away. People will forget about it. Well, some people. I didn't. They'd say, the president's bad, Putin loves Trump, he sold our country out to a foreign adversary. Now, none of this is true. The FBI determined this. There was no proof whatsoever, even though time and time again they said there was overwhelming proof. And it's funny how the media just kind of forgot about Russia collusion. When it didn't fit their narrative, they didn't want to talk about it anymore. They didn't want to bring up, well, where did this all come from? Now, there were some news sources that touched on it, but for the most part, the mainstream media didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But they might not be able to hide from it any longer. According to what some news outlets are reporting now, the Clinton campaign paid a tech company to infiltrate Trump Tower and the White House servers. Special counsel John Durham, who is investigating the origins of the FBI's Trump-Russia probe, says in a new court filing that lawyers for the Clinton campaign paid a tech company to infiltrate servers belonging to Trump Tower and the Trump White House in an effort to establish a narrative linking President Donald Trump to Russia. The revelation was made in court filings late last week that centered on potential conflicts of interest connected to the representation of former Clinton campaign lawyer Michael Sussman, who has been charged with allegedly lying to the FBI. Not only were the Democrats trying to stop their political rival, but they were also trying to overthrow a sitting president. I believe the word for that is treason. Now, this is actually a very big deal. Now, the Democrats have gone on for months now about how January 6th was the darkest day in American democracy. Grandmothers roaming around the Capitol with flags. It basically brought America to its knees. It was another 9/11, another Pearl Harbor, worse than a nuclear bomb dropped in Manhattan. Yes, this grandma was worse than all that. Now, there were bad things going on. It was a riot. But an insurrection? Did you hear about all the thousands of weapons they had seized during this insurrection? No, you didn't, because there weren't any. I guess they were going to overthrow the government with mean tweets, like Trump had planned. Did I mention the grandmas with American flags? Now you know why they possibly have been making such a big deal at January 6th. They knew something bigger was coming down the pipeline. And now you know what that thing was. Fox News reported the indictment against Sussman says he told then FBI General Counsel James Baker in September 2016, less than 2 months before the 2016 presidential election, that he was not doing work for any client when he requested and held a meeting in which he presented purported data and white papers that allegedly demonstrated a covert communications channel between the Trump Organization and Alpha Bank, which has ties to the Kremlin. But Durham's filing on February 11th, in a section titled Factual Background, reveals that Sussman had assembled and conveyed the allegations to the FBI on behalf of at least 2 specific clients, including a technology executive, which is as of now unnamed, and the Clinton campaign. The filing says that Sussman and the tech executive had met and been in contact with another lawyer who was working for the Clinton campaign. For those that don't know, Durham is an FBI agent who was put in charge of getting to the bottom of what started all the Russia collusion hoopla. Now, he's part of a special counsel, and what that is basically something that can't be done away with by a political opponent. When Robert Mueller had gone after Trump, that's the reason Trump couldn't just say, oh, well, we're not going to investigate this anymore. They have special protections. That's why Durham can't just be stopped by Joe Biden. He can't say, well, you can't do this investigation anymore. It's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
No matter what side of the political aisle you're on. So Durham has charged people connected to the Clinton campaign with basically getting onto Trump's servers at both the White House while he was president and at Trump Towers while he was running for president, and trying to fake information that would tie him to a bank that is tied to the Kremlin. That way they could have a paper trail going and say, look, here's the proof. So it appears that Trump was proven right yet again. Now, Trump released a statement. The latest pleading from Special Counsel John Durham provides indisputable evidence that my campaign and presidency were spied on by operatives paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign in an effort to develop a completely fabricated connection to Russia. This is a scandal far greater in scope and magnitude than Watergate, and those who were involved in and knew about this spying operation should be subject to criminal prosecution. In a stronger period of time in our country, this crime would have been punishable by death. Now just think for a minute if roles had been reversed. He would never do such a thing because the man is in love with Democrats. But just say Mitt Romney, when he was running against Barack Obama, had made up a story about Obama being in cahoots with Russia and then faked all this information. Do you think the media would have been trying to hang Obama? And then when it was proven that Romney had faked it all, do you think they'd turn the other way? Because that's exactly what they're doing now. As of right now, there's very little media coverage on the left of what the Clinton campaign is said to have done. This is a far bigger story than Watergate. And, Watergate happened years before I was born. I still hear about it. Everyone's heard about Watergate. This is far bigger of a story. Now, it hasn't gone to court yet. It hasn't been proven to be true. But if it is, people need to go to jail. Now, I'm not dumb enough to think Hillary Clinton would ever spend a day in jail. But it should get people's attention. If you see corruption, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, it should get your attention. Mitch McConnell, I believe his wife has ties to the Chinese government. He should definitely probably be in prison. See, that wasn't hard at all. Now, there are some people on the left that are being honest about this. Glenn Greenwald is one of them. He's a left-wing journalist. He's come out and said if it is true, then this is a major news story. But a lot of the left-wing media is not even touching this story, not even commenting on it. As of the time I'm making this video right now, CNN doesn't have anything on their website about it at all. One of the biggest political stories in American history, possibly, and they care nothing about the scoop. But yeah, honestly, the media has no bias whatsoever. The experts have said as much, and one should always trust the experts. They're never wrong. Except about Russia collusion. They were wrong about that. And the COVID lab link theory, they were probably wrong about that. And Hunter Biden's laptop, yeah, they were wrong about that. And the MAGA hat kid, they were wrong about him. And Jesse Smollett, oh yeah, they were wrong about that one too. Man, it's almost like the media just half-assed does reporting now. It's like they're just trying to push a narrative and they don't really care about the truth, just fooling stupid people that look at headlines and don't actually read the story. But man, I'm telling you, I do love to see all this because it's going to open some people's eyes, not everybody's. You're going to have people that are just so hell-bent on being stupid that they won't know how to function if they're not. But you guys out there, go ahead and get your popcorn ready, and you're going to need a big bag because there should be a lot more to come from this. This is actually a far bigger story than Russiagate was. But do pay attention to how much coverage the making of a fake crime gets compared to the fake crime that was proven not to be real. Meaning, 3 years of Russia collusion, that's all you heard about, wasn't true. What led to all that, all the faking and lies, that will get very little news coverage. Now remember, when Hillary did all this, she thought she was a shoo-in to be the next president. She thought she could do all this stuff, she could be a little sloppy, you know. She wouldn't have to be as careful as she normally was when suiciding someone. But she could just half-ass do this, and she'd win the election and could cover it up easily when she got into power. And then she didn't win, and it was kind of exposed out there. And she was kind of nervous about it. And then it kind of got discovered. I really think that's why the Democrats were pushing it so hard. I think, not all Democrats, I'm not saying it was some grand conspiracy, but there were people in the DNC, I'm sure, that knew about this. There's no doubt they did. If this is true, there's no doubt people high up in the DNC knew about this. And probably to help save themselves, they had to push hard on this Russian narrative to give people doubts, to make it seem like this. Hopefully, convince someone or be able to fabricate something to actually get Trump in trouble, and then they could cover up their own crimes. But thank goodness it didn't happen. The truth might be coming out, and maybe people will be going to jail. Well, if you like the video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Share it with a soy boy, it might make a man out of them. Until next time, take care.